Hello, everyone. Today we are here with another session of the Health Quotient, and I welcome you all. And today, as our guest speaker, we have Dr. Purnima. And let me just give you a little something more information about Dr. Purnima. So, Dr. Purnima Nagaraj is a psychiatrist, psychotherapist, and a trainer and a mentor. She works out of Hyderabad and runs a wellness clinic named Dhriti Wellness Clinic. This clinic focuses on holistic mental health, psychological support, personality development, counseling for adults, children, and adolescents, and rehabilitation for children with special needs. Dhriti Wellness Clinic is also LGBTQIA friendly and has offered free services to the community since 1993. Dr. Purnima holds a diploma in psychiatry and a master's degree in counseling and psychotherapy and has been in practice since 1993. Dr. Purnima also collaborates with many voluntary organizations and the Telangana state and the city police in training and offering resources to a Bharosa Center for women and child support. She has been a columnist and many newspapers and a TV host and speaks many languages fluently.
Thank
Welcome,
you very
Dr.
much for
Purnima.
having me here. Yes, first I'd like to thank you all for having me here and also for prioritizing mental health, which is actually the child of medical science. Health Quotient is doing a great job of trying to familiarize people with complex medical issues.
So I think right now the most affected population, which is
Yes.
going through the mental, which is facing many obstacles in mental wellness, is the teenage population and the young adolescents and children, which are going through many obstacles. So, what do you think is the trend and what is happening to today's youth? What do you think are the factors which are affecting the youth, especially, which who are finding it difficult to come over the mental illnesses?
So, as I've told you before, now we have three distinct, time zones. Pre-pandemic, pandemic lockdown, and then post-pandemic, where I think the maximum affected, as you said, are children, adolescents, and young adults. The incidence of self-harm is increased, depression is increased, the incidence of mood swings, aggressive behavior, anger, rages, even suicidal intent, and people, indulging in some level of suicidal behavior, self-sabotaging behavior where they're not taking care of themselves, unable to do things. All of this is on the rise, and there are so many people right now within the ages of 11, and of course there are younger ones, but 11 and 25 struggling with mental health
Yeah,
issues.
that's right. So I just would like to highlight on one point you just said. You mentioned about children playing PUBG in the classrooms. So what do you have to say about video game addiction? Because we see a lot in the news about kids playing PUBG, doing heavy transactions, and they're not able to eat or drink before playing a game. So I think we all have seen or we know somebody who is a child and is addicted heavily to video games. So what is your take on it, and how do you suggest that we minimize it?
So this has to be done in a very systematic manner. And now we have also noticed that video game and gadget is an addiction, and there are de-addiction centers opening all over the world which help in reducing the addiction to these gadgets and certain serials and soap operas, whatever. So what these games do, one thing is, the images move very rapidly, so it holds your attention, whereas school books are very boring, there's no image there, right? So it holds your attention, but also with children with ADHD, I mean, attention deficit disorder, hyperkinetic disorders, hyperactive children, see, it can actually mess with your, because the images are moving so fast, it becomes very difficult to slow down. And what the brain needs to do when there is a hyperactivity problem is to slow down a bit. Other than that, sitting for long hours, people get what is called as tendon problems because they're pressing with their thumbs, carpal tunnel syndrome because they're holding on. Problems are not exactly psychiatric, right?
Yeah.
Then slouching over, so lung capacity goes down, breathing capacity goes down, headaches, eye problems. These you have so many health issues that happen just slouched in one place. Now let me come to the psychiatric part and the psychological part. No, aggression has increased. The most, I think, significant thing that has increased is that, there is no more a wide line between what is right and what is wrong. That line has become very blurry because there are so many games which, for those energy points, and to get a high score, you have to indulge in stealing, mugging people, pickpocketing, teasing people, indulging in more drastic things like molestation, rape, selling drugs. So, and you get points for these things. So when you're getting points and you're getting all excited, you can also do that in real life, because at some point you see the virtual life and the real life, they merge like this. So there are people outside. Recently there was an incident where a boy, he tapped his own mother because she stopped him from playing uh, PUBG. And not only did he kill her, he also kept the body for 3 or 4 days and kept faking it to his father, was not in town, saying that she's alive and she's somewhere. So you see, and that all this coming from a 14, 15, 16-year-old child. And there are so many more which are a little less sensational than what hit the news. But, hitting grandparents, molesting parents, stealing money. So a lot of these antisocial activities have increased because of video game play. Some are really good, like we have video games for dementias, which are really, really good. It enhances the cognitive skills. There are lots of stuff for children also, youngsters, wherein it enhances your cognitive powers, and it makes your reflexes better. But nobody wants to play those because there's no fun involved. You see, it's fun of a different level. So even games like, say, Candy Crush or any of these games, they're not dangerous, except unless you overdo it so much that if somebody takes your phone away, you get aggressive and you get angry. So supervised viewing is something that I have always advocated, ever since, we got these very beautiful mobiles in our hand. um, and now with AI, the um, options are endless. Options for fraud, options for revenge, options for pornography, endless. So previously, there's something called revenge pornography, wherein you're angry with your girlfriend, you morph pictures of her and put it up on, objectionable sites. So now you don't even need to do that. You can take an ordinary photograph, to your girlfriend's face, or your mother's face, or anybody you're angry with, because nobody's there to contain anger, nobody's there to talk to them, nobody's able to tell them that, look, this is not right and this is right. Everybody's busy in their own lives, and the world is such that, unless both parents work, um, it's very hard to run the house and give beautiful education, expensive education to the children. um, so breakdown of communication is the number one consequence of indulging in these things. And then, the line between right and wrong becomes extremely blurry. So from there, you see, it goes on to a host of behavioral and psychological issues. And the last is probably last resort, is that even in India, we are going to definitely, right now in the OP, we do deal with gadget addictions with medication. There will be a time when you have very spa like de-addiction centers for PUBG addictions and all other game addictions.
That's right. That's right. I hope we do not reach that state. Um,
I think we already have.
yeah. Yeah. So, as you mentioned that children are going against their parents and doing all that. So, how do you think parents in this particular era can discipline their children? Because it's with all the exposure that the children are getting, I think it's becoming a little difficult as in when we go right now. So, what measures do you think that parents can adopt as a modern parenting methods to discipline their children?
So first thing is, I would like to remove the word discipline, because immediately it becomes an authority thing. Indian parents are authoritative parents. Whatever I say, you need to listen. If I pick your profession, you need to listen. Instead of that, I think more permissive parenting and more cool parenting is what we need. The other thing is, parents need to lead by examples. Parents are in their own WhatsApp group with their friends, and then you don't want your children to do it. So they should be something like, I say, like an earth hour, where everybody comes home, puts their gadgets away, no matter how busy you are and what kind of a meeting you have, just put it away, spend a little quality time. It could be half an hour, it could be 1 hour, it could be anything, and do that every day. And try to have at least one meal together where you're talking about issues and children have an outlet. Be non-judgmental. If you see your child indulging in something which is not appropriate, like say watching a blue film, or watching or playing a game which is not negotiate, don't shout. Talk to them, put your arm around their shoulder, take them for a walk, or take them for ice cream, and sit down and talk to them and tell them why. Okay, without lecturing. It's very difficult to tell children something today without making it sound preachy or lecturing. Okay, but humor is always a good place to be on a platform when you want to talk to your children. Joke it out to them, talk to them, but make sure I love you, but this is not right. It's called firm love. I love you to bits, but this is not right. Supervised viewing is very important because mostly it's not just about playing PUBG or whatever game they're playing. It's also about, or even pornography for that matter. It's more about getting trafficked without your knowledge. You're putting up pictures on the internet. We don't know who's morphing it, who's putting it on the porn site. They're tracking your IP address, you're tracking your numbers, right? And we are such fools when it comes to divulging information. So there might be a pedophile watching, there might be a sex offender watching. Just imagine, with the click of a button, you're reaching millions of people. While it's fantastic to imagine and say, wow, look at technology, it's also like, oh my God, look at technology, right? So, cautioning them from the beginning, supervised viewing, curtailing their own viewing histories. These are the things that primarily needs to be done, and open a communication line which is infallible. No matter how busy you are, you must be there for your children. Although it sounds probably very strict, when you want to discipline your children, you must practice self-discipline. So what are you doing on your WhatsApp, or what are you doing all day? You're giggling into your phone and you don't want me to. That's not fair. And that's true, it really isn't fair. So if you want your children to do something, do it yourself first. And say, look, this 1 hour I'm with you. Come on, let's play something. Children might protest and grumble and groan. But at some time, they'll also start enjoying it because they're able to talk. And give them that platform where they can say anything to their parents and get away. There has to be a safe space. Children do not have safe spaces to talk or confide. That's why parents never get to know. If they're being sexually abused, nobody gets to know. Even if there's something inappropriate happening, nobody gets to know. If they're in trouble, nobody gets to know because they don't feel safe. They feel parents will react badly. So don't react. Or rather, don't overreact. React, give them the appropriate reaction and say, okay, fine, now what shall we do about it? Now, come on, let's find a solution for this. And don't go into the blame game. When I bola tha, you have to study and you, what the hell, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're not doing that, you're not doing this. So they will also turn around and find a barrage of complaints which they have for you or against you, right? So keep the communication open, keep it widespread, keep it regular and everyday. Be compassionate when you talk to your children, and reach out with an open heart. And that's the best way to bring up any child.
Right. So yeah, that's a really cool tip. That lead by example. I think everyone needs to practice it, and not just parents. I think everybody in the youth also, if they need to communicate something, I think leading by example is the best way for everyone. So going on to the WhatsApp and Instagram and Facebook apps which are there, the social media, which influence highly on how a particular person thinks. They might take the thoughts to extremities. In fact, that they are even mob influencers and stuff like that happens on social media. And there's a new profession which is invented called as influencers. So what is your take on social media, and how can we restrict ourselves or be cautious and not get influenced just like that because of the extreme words and content which is being portrayed in the social media?
So there are 2 or 3 things that I'd like to highlight here. The first thing is, nobody knows this, but mindlessly, when people keep scrolling on reels or the shorts and all that, it's a sign of depression. When you're mindlessly looking at something without any direction, they say now it's a sign of anxiety and depression. So that's the first point I wanted to push across. The other thing is, how can we control ourselves? We can't, because we are all pleasure seeking. It's all a dopamine thing. You get oxytocin and dopamine in abundance when we watch these things. And there are people who indulge in very risky behavior because they want a lot of followers. So an influencer is good, but what are you influencing is the question. Right? So there are many pop stars who went against stereotypes and appeared on Instagram without their makeup, and they were trolled to bits. There are girls who committed suicide because they were body shamed and trolled on the internet. So where do we stop is what we need to teach our children, that if somebody's trolling you, block them. Don't sit down and have conversations. See, the blue whale came in, and then you have this Momo challenge which came in, which was actually talking to vulnerable people and making them, commit suicide.
Hmm.
So vulnerability is a very big thing. So we need to assess our children for vulnerability. How vulnerable are you to this? The other thing, fact checking. See, there are so many times, and even adults, grandparents also, they see some forward and they mindlessly just forward it to another person, not checking whether it's a fact, whether it's
Yeah.
true, not true. Some of them are blasphemous, some of them are funny as hell, but nevertheless, they're all fake news,
Hmm.
right? So, fact checking is the second thing. Teach your children to check facts before they share it. Third thing is have your own framework of behavior, attitude, wherein children don't get too influenced. Okay, they might want to dye their hair red, or they might want to wear some particular clothes which some pop star is wearing.
Hmm.
I think up to there it's okay. You can indulge them, a little bit. But if they want to say jump off a train, which is, just to make a reel because they'll get followers, so you have to dissuade them in a very gentle manner.
Yeah.
That it's all fine, but not that fine. So you can encourage them. Okay, you want to make reels, chalo, let's make reels about a family. Let's all get together and talk about things. Or you can make reels about your little doggy or puppy or something, whatever's in the house.
Hmm.
You can make reels about that and teach them to edit. Sit with them when they are editing it, so that no blasphemous content goes on,
Yeah.
right? Tell them, teach them to block. That is I think the hardest thing to do. It's like resisting French fries for somebody. The hardest thing in the world is to resist food and to resist comments. So you start reacting badly to them when you could have just blocked them and just moved away, but you don't do it.
Hmm.
We indulge and then we get very, very upset, and then it results in risky behavior. So instead of that, teach them that it's okay to block, even if that person is your best friend, if that person is trolling you or sexting you, right? Sending sexual texts or sending any blasphemous information, please
Hmm.
block. So three things, if you're able to do, I think the rest of it is not that difficult. So weekends, indulge yourself. Weekdays, on school days, be good. So things like that, you can have some rules and you can make up rules as you go along, which everybody in the house
Hmm.
follows. So if grandpa sitting there and laughing over, it can say, "मैं तो पुराने गाने सुन रहा हूँ." I know a lot of grandparents who do that. I'm not doing anything bad. I'm listening to old songs. That to see black and white era, but you're doing it at an odd time. You're doing too much of it, and your child is getting affected.
Hmm. That's
So that is something you need to understand. That you maybe there is no such thing as a good side or a bad side when it comes to an addiction. They're all bad because you're hooked onto it and you're not able
yeah.
to let go, right? So there is no distinction saying, okay, he's an old man, your grandfather's getting bored. No, I'm sorry. You may be getting bored. Find something else to do. Go for a walk. Sit down and indulge your grandchildren. But don't get hooked onto your gadget and complain that the
Hmm.
children are
Yeah,
getting bored.
that's it. Just to add on to this point, just an add-on question that because of the social media, I think because the standards set in the social media, I think many of the children and youth of these days they compare themselves to the pop stars or the different influencers who are portraying themselves in a particular way. So they also try and post it, and there's this trend which is going on, like you need to be in, post such things, post stories on a regular basis, send snaps on Snapchat. So and they make a streak with the snap, right? So it's like every day you need to keep sending photos and particular kind of photos. It may be dark or light, but in a particular trend. So, and if you're not up to it, there is a sense of feeling left out, which is also called as FOMO, fear of missing out. So, how do we instill that confidence in children that okay, however you are good and you're beautiful, and you're good enough, and what you're doing is really great, and not necessarily tell them to, be to that standard where we need to show off about a particular thing about yourself on social media. How do we do that?
So there is an accusation that social media has brought about an increase in eating disorders, body shaming, face shaming, skin shaming, and all of that. But the maximum body shaming occurs at home. Eating disorders start at home, not on the internet. Okay, the internet actually eggs you on because you want to be a perfect size zero, or that unnecessary sense of perfection, and you have so many makeup videos that people start trying them out. It starts with natural curiosity and then it becomes a mess. But most of it, I know parents, educated Indian parents who will tell their daughters that you're very ugly, so the least you can do is study if you want to get a good husband.
So, just coming on to that point of, as you said, physical health and how it's related to mental health. So, sometimes I think people even overdo it, going to the gyms, and we see that people are wanting that particular body, and they want big muscles, especially in men. We can see that it's happening these days a lot as compared. So, can you give us a little more insight on the relation between physical health and mental wellness?
There are a few things that we need to understand. The biggest antidepressant and the best antidepressant in the world, and probably the most underrated, is exercise of any sort. It can be dance, it can be Zumba, it could be Spanish salsa, it could be anything, right? It actually gives you a high. There is something called an exercise high, okay, that you feel great after that. The second thing is you are what you eat. Make sure you eat foods with with monosodium glutamate. It's a taste enhancer, and they'll use it even in paneer butter masala, all the way up to chips and kurkure. So that can actually cause cognitive deficits and also predispose you to colonic cancers and all that. Fruit that is not fresh, and too much food food that has too much oil, or anything in moderation is fine. But it should not overdo it. And there is also something, again, let me tell you, while people are addicted to junk food, and then you have anorexias and you have bulimias and all that, there is something called orthorexia. Orthorexia is an obsession with health. That you're so obsessed that you will not eat anything else, and you'll become, you do all kinds of faddish diets, which may or may not be helpful. Right? So beware of, swinging to the other side also. Exercise also, when you do too much, you go into depression. A little bit makes you, feel very exhilarated. But too much of it, you can get depressed, because there's a lactic acid buildup in the body. There are a lot of muscle tests, and it can make you actually go into burnout. Too much work makes you burn out. Just do the right kind. So balancing it is so difficult. I People always ask me, is there something called work-life balance? And I say, absolutely not. You're either working or balanced. You can't do both. So even housework, see, I'm not talking about the ones who go and sit in front of a computer. I'm talking about even the ones who do housework. If you do too much of it, and you would say, like, hey, what's my life? Am I only sitting here and cleaning and washing dishes? Right? So I always say, get a life beyond these things. That these some things, sometimes some things can wait. You can dust this cupboard tomorrow. You can go for a walk and sit down on the road and have a cornetto and do this tomorrow and not feel any guilt. We always feel very guilty for resting. We feel guilty for taking time out. We feel guilty if you want just some alone time, without anybody around you. Particularly mothers, with children. How can I feel that way? Because I have children, I have a husband, I have in-laws to take care of. You have all of that, but what about you? Right? You need to take care of yourself to be able to take care of others. So a healthy attitude towards work, healthy attitude towards eating, a healthy attitude towards sleep, okay, and our habits. That is the balance we need, rather than just work in life. There's a lot of life out there, which is beyond work, beyond, and it's not only going out having fun, going to amusement parks. It's sometimes just sitting in solitude, just sitting quietly and just watching, the world go by. It's sometimes just sitting in your car, turning up the AC, putting your seat on a recline, and just listening to some music on your FM, or listening to the radio jog talk. It can be anything. Take that 10 minutes for yourself. What you do is not important. Wherever you are, however you are, whatever you can do it. For about 10 minutes in a day. And I think that is the thing that, balances all the other things in your life.
That's true. That's completely true. Yeah, I think we all need to take out a little bit time for ourselves and see and rest, just give a break from everything else.
Break out of a stereotype, wear whatever you want. If you don't
Yeah,
want others to see it, fine, sit in your room.
yeah.
But slowly and break all these huge walls that you've built. कि लोग क्या सोचेंगे? What will the world think? Oh God, I have to do this. I have to be like this. I have to look like this. I have to eat like this. No, you don't. You really don't. And the day we realize that, I think we're all happier people. And I think counselors spend their entire life making you realize that it's okay.
Yeah,
It's okay to be not okay. It's okay to not want to do something, and it's okay to want to relax. It's really okay, and we don't have to feel guilty for it. So, like,
that's
when I'm like late, from work, and it's been a particularly harrowing day, I take the long way home. I know there are enough shortcuts to my house, but I take a longer drive. I might stop and, have an ice cream. There's also, a lot of these quality walls, uh, carts over there, or I might stop at a food cart and say, give me a plate of idli, or, I'm a South Indian. So, or make me a hot dosa. But I I know I'm already late to going home. So everybody's asleep, and it doesn't really matter if I go another 10 minutes late,
Yeah.
right? So, I just sit down, enjoy, and I might strike up a conversation with a totally random person, okay?
Mm.
In just 10 minutes of fun, 10 minutes of eating some hot food or having a cold ice cream, or just nothing, rolling down your windows and standing outside when the wind is on or getting a little wet in the rain. To me, this is something that helps me unwind on a long, and I never fail to indulge these things, particularly a little late in the evening.
That's really amazing. Yeah. Coming to the other aspect of what people indulge to, or like have their go-to when they feel mentally stressed or don't feel quite well, is spiritual activities, or they go to the spiritual side, or they seek their mental wellness over there. So what do you think about that aspect? What do you think is the correlation between spirituality and mental wellness, and about what people go to these days?
So some resort to spirits and some resort to spirituality. I think the second one is better. So every one of us is very spiritual. We understand the philosophies. Every one of us has a personal philosophy. Whether we are able to fulfill that or not,
Mm.
only time will tell. But we all have like the do's and don'ts, and I think every one of us should have. Spirituality is all about understanding who we are, what we are in the schema of life.
Mm.
Where we stand in the universe, right? And how we want to conduct our lives, how we can be empathic and compassionate to others without compromising on our own qualities, or without compromising on ethics. How you can reach out and help people,
Mm.
and understanding your inner voice, your inner child, your inner adult, your inner voice, your alter ego. To understand that, I think, is deeply spiritual, and
Mm.
it has nothing to do with religion as such. You might pray to a particular god, or a particular adhere to a particular faith, but that has nothing to do with spirituality. And you can be religious and spiritual at the same time, or you can just be spiritual and not religious. And I think mental health, definitely depends on this, because we all need somebody to lean on. And
Mm.
when we say, when you have nobody to lean on, there's always God. And there are a lot of people who get a lot of happiness and support by leaning on, on a physical manifestation of what we believe is God. And
Mm.
there are people who say, fine, let me just close my eyes and meditate, and let me sort my issues out. So either which way, as long as it is not offending others around you, or you're not getting into a phase wherein you're fighting for your beliefs against somebody else's beliefs. Because spirituality is a very personal and a very private thing. You can't share it unless you find
Mm.
somebody who's extremely like-minded. Only then you can open up and share, and probably your auras will touch. But until such time, your aura is your own. And you must find ways to heal the aura, must find ways to expand the aura, and you must find ways to find your own mental peace amidst all the madness around you. So
That's true.
definitely it has a huge say in mental health. And we always say, why don't you just sit back and just look at yourself from all different angles. And we
Mm.
sometimes we also use a mirror. It's called the mirror therapy, and wherein it's a gestalt method, where you can hold a mirror, look at yourself, and say, okay, what do you see? Do you see, wrinkle lines that you're worried? What can we do about it? When was the last time you smiled? Okay, has your smile changed? Has your body changed? Has your thought process changed? So we,
Mm.
we teach you introspection. So this is also a good way of doing it, holding a mirror in your hand and introspecting about where you were, what you wanted to be, and where you are now. And then
Mm.
see if you can align them to in a better way, and find your own mental space, a safe space in your mind where you can retreat and just be yourself, and help your own mental health, help others maybe, but first yourself. I always say there's nothing selfish about expanding your spiritual aura to help yourself.
That's true. That's completely true. That was such an amazing insight, really. I think everybody will now look at a mirror at least once a day. When we are looking at a mirror, I think we can really look at ourselves deep inside, and not just the face on top. Yeah. There is another important aspect that I would like to touch upon. So we see the trend that we just the June was called as the Pride Month, and there's been a lot of activities such as the Pride Walk, and there's a Pride Week, and I think there are many activities in multiple corporates as well regarding this. So we see a rise in the LGBTQI community. So what do you have to say about that?
I don't think it's a rise as much as it is a rise in awareness. They have
Hmm.
always been around. It's just that we were close to, right? So you have even today you have a lot of people who are in the closet, as you call them, closet gays, closet people who are in the same sex relationships, and different. LGBT is like each of these alphabets stands for something.
Yeah.
I've been running an LGBTQI friendly clinic for the past 30 years. And in the early days, it used to be terrible. And even today, you have these fixing centers, as you call them, where they're sent there, and some of them are actually brutalized to fix them into, again, becoming straight, as you call it.
Hmm.
So we only believe in binary genders, male and female, and we don't want anything else in between. So they're all looked down upon and treated very badly also. So I think this should be a wake up call that says that, the way I look at it is the sexuality and sex occupy just 5% of a person's life, and you have 95% of that person to enjoy. Why are you just stuck on, their habits and their private concepts of who they are and how they are? Why don't we concentrate on, being more inclusive and more friendly, and, just helping people, because, it's an emotional crisis for them also to suddenly come to a realization that um, I don't conform to my assigned gender, and I'm something else on the inside. It's so difficult, isn't it? So I think if we are a little more inclusive and less phobic, I think in an increasingly homophobic world, I
Yeah.
think we can definitely reach out and spread this and say that, look, it's really okay. You can be whatever you like, just be yourself. And we're happy to accept you that way. It doesn't matter what you choose as, your sexual identity or your human identity. It's perfectly fine. I think that should be the attitude. And it is the awareness is definitely on the rise, and also the laws are changing. They're becoming more and more conducive, and I'm happy to do it. And there are also people seeking mental health support
Hmm.
for these things, and therefore, I think we are slowly evolving into a more inclusive society.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Thank you for the awareness in this. So, saving the best question for the last. I'm sorry if it's getting late. So, there's one last question. That the most important one, in fact, that how do you recognize that somebody needs professional help or just a normal help from our side? It may be a close one, or it might be yourself as well, or if it might be any random person or a colleague that you know. How do you know that person? How to recognize or signs, to recognize those signs which might indicate that that person is going through something and that person might need help, or how can you help out in your small way to that person?
I think once in a while asking them, "Are you all right?" I think it's the greatest question you can ask anybody in today's. See, people don't pretend to be depressed. People pretend to be happy. Today we have high functioning people who are extremely anxious, extremely depressed, suicidal even, but they're all smiling because they have to function in order to earn money, to keep their jobs, to keep a relationship intact.
Yeah.
So there's so much, so many masks we put on. So once in a while, just watching, if a person is being extra exuberant, say, hey, sab theek hai kya? Or if a person is sad, become very quiet, socially withdrawn, not attending parties, it's okay to just knock on the door and say, look, I just came to keep you company. We don't have to go out. We don't have to do anything. I just sit around. I mean, I'll make some food. You make some food, and we'll eat. So sometimes, depression can be, like a whole body paralysis where you can't even raise your hand to brush your teeth. And people always tell you things like, "Aman, you really need to suck it up." What do you lack? You have so much money. You have a job. You have, or parents keep saying, "We buy you this. We buy you an iPhone. We bought you this. We bought you that." What do you have to be depressed about? It's not about material things, and the sooner we understand that, the better. That depression is a serious disease. Mental illnesses are serious illnesses, just like physical illnesses. And they're chemically mediated. We have neurotransmitters mediating moods and mediating illnesses. It runs in families sometimes, and sometimes the extreme situations that we faced, it can be abuse, it can be a molestation, it can be a bereavement, the extreme situations that we face, even the pandemic was an extreme situation, can actually push us towards mental health issues. And we need to take a more compassionate view about this. There's nothing wrong with going to a mental health professional. Stop stigmatizing it, saying that, oh, there's something wrong. If you can't, if you want to stigmatize something, why don't we stigmatize somebody with a broken leg? Hey, how did you break your leg? Oh, that's so terrible. But we give every amount of sympathy because it's a visible illness. These are invisible illnesses which need a lot of understanding and support. So, when do we need to go to a professional? We need to do a lot of introspection there. Say, if I'm having a persistently sad mood, if I'm not able to enjoy the things I used to before, if I'm becoming increasingly fatigued, and if I'm not able to concentrate, if I'm getting thoughts of death, or if I'm feeling I have mood swings where some days I'm completely exuberant and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes am I hearing voices? Do I feel that everybody's out to get me, or if I do I feel alien in this world? See, these are all warning signs that something is amiss, right? So if you feel like binging, your sleep is disturbed, your appetite is disturbed, either you don't eat at all or eat too much. See,
Hmm.
all of these things can actually cause mental illness, or could be just the harbingers of something terribly wrong inside.
Hmm.
So reaching out and taking help, talking to a friend, talk to a friend who is knowledgeable. You won't say, "Arey yaar, ye kuch nahi, it's all in your mind." Of course, it's in your mind. It's something to do with the mind. Why won't it be in the mind? Where else will it be? It won't be lurking in your sofa set, right? Or lying in bed next to you. So it is in the mind. And mental health over physical health is what I always advocate, because if your mind's okay, your body will follow suit. Otherwise, if you have a cricket match happening inside your head, your body keeps the score. It comes out as pain, it comes out as headaches, it comes out as autoimmune disorders, early diabetes, PCOS. Everything is linked to the mind. So keep that, these 2, 3 inches happy. The rest of the world your physical world will definitely follow you, and it'll keep you healthy. So always healthy mind and a healthy body is what we advocate, and that is true even today. So eat well, live well, try to balance things out, take professional help whenever you need to. Try to be as lead a healthy attitude. I won't say healthy lifestyle. It has to be an attitude style that you lead. If you have a healthy attitude, a lot of things fall into place.
Hmm.
Be more inclusive, expand your mind, to understand people who are not as fortunate as you. Try not to be nasty or mean. Just sometimes we do it, but not always, right? And reach out to people who need help, and don't say, no, that one's a weirdo. I don't need to help that person. Oh my God, look at that weirdo. But no, there's nothing weird about having mental illness. We are not weirdos. It's just that somebody really needs help, and they're just trying to show it. People who cut themselves are not doing it on purpose. It's a cry for help. People who bang their heads, or scream, or have a meltdown, they're not doing it just to get attention. It's a cry for help. So when that cry for help is there, don't put them down and say, this one is doing some drama. Is just a dramatic person. No, that person needs help of some sort, not able to get through to somebody. So it's happening, and they're going into a meltdown. Understand where they're coming from and say, fine, here I am. I'm right next to you. Chalo, let's go for a walk. Do you want to talk to me? You can tell me anything, and I promise I won't judge you. And if you feel that this person is a little more extreme and needs mental health support, please convince them and take them.
Doctor, I have been listening to the entire episode on this while, and one thing I must appreciate that you have very good command over your topic, and also the working experience is talking. It's not just the bookish knowledge. Now, I have very core question to you. You come across n number of mental disorders and challenges. How do you keep yourself so energetic and charged?
So, one thing, ma'am, I totally love my profession.
I'm sure.
So my parents are psychiatrists. I always tell people I grew up inside a mental hospital. So I was exposed to mental health from a very young age. And I'm so proud to tell you that my daughter is also, taking up, she's in her MD second year of psychiatry. So this is a third generation here.
Okay.
We all grew up with mental health. We all grew up empathizing. We all grew up actually getting hurt, breaking a few bones also. So I totally love my job. So that's why at the end of the day, also I'm fairly energetic, because I know I'm able to reach out to somebody out there and try to make a difference in their lives. It's never linked to money. Psychiatrists don't make money. My mental health professionals don't make money. Probably I make in a month what a plastic surgeon makes in a day. But you go home happy.
Mm.
And yes, it's a stressful job. There are lots of people depending on you.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, if you're able to help, maybe 10 out of 1,000 people, I think it's a job well done. So a positive attitude always makes good. And like I told you, I have my ways to unwind. I have dogs in the house, and I love cooking. So I'm always, and whenever I'm upset about something in the house, I see four extra patients and I forget that. And I take the long way home. I have ice creams. I have a weakness for ice creams and, chaat. So I'll stop on the road and have chaat. And then, I just wind down and then I go back home so that I don't show, if I'm ambushed about something, I try not to show it at home. So that's how I deal with my issues, ma'am. And I have lots of friends amongst mental health professionals where we all have a good laugh in the
Great.
conferences and all that.
Great, great. That's a good tip because almost everyone needs it and they really have to keep themselves really positive and optimistic with this changing world, challenges and post-pandemic, as you're rightly saying, everything. Great. Thanks. Thank you very much. Aishwarya, you may want to
Thank
Yes, so I would just like to thank you again for taking out your precious time. I know you're very busy and you have a lot of things to attend to, but thank you so much for taking out a little bit of your time to enlighten us on so many different issues and so many different areas which people might not be aware of. And I am sure definitely the viewers who are watching this video would definitely go back to something and take up small steps in their life to enhance their world also and enhance the world of people around them also, and in turn this society as well. So thank you again so much. And
you for having me over, and thank you so much for this.